So presumably you're all first-rate journalists, but I wonder if, as foreign reporters, you feel like you are second-class, third-class, fourth-class citizens at the White House.
Well, if you get to the White House, we don't even get to the White House. So where does that put me? 6th or 7th down the list. We used to, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation used to go to briefings, but we don't bother anymore. We can't get our foot in the door. It's not worth our time.
Second class? You're European.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, but that doesn't help. Doesn't help always. When I get invitations to White House events and it says at the bottom, you have to reserve, but space is limited, I know I will never get a spot because they prefer US media.
So the Russians and the Indians have better access to...
I cannot complain. We've had a couple of on-camera interviews with the current president. We had 2 or 3 with the previous one. So I do not feel like I'm left out. Obviously, they play to their own domestic audience. Obviously, every government does that.
Do you have to be a voting, a veto voting member of the Security Council to have access?
No, it's not. You don't have to vote. But as a wire correspondent from India, means we have a focused thing on covering the White House every day. And if you have any questions, they haven't responded me to yes, never. They have always responded me to my emails and the questions.
But you guys never got any one-on-one with the president, did you?
No, we got 2 interviews. PTA got 2 interviews in the last 6 years. Yeah.
Oh, so there's been
Same
some
here.
access.
We've had two interviews, but we had our Prime Minister visiting here recently, and we couldn't even get reporters who'd come from Canberra in to see the visit between the Prime Minister and the President.
But you got a question, right? Didn't you?
I did get a question, but it took a lot of organising to get that one question, and let me tell you, that's the first question the ABC's got up at a White House briefing in a long time.
And how do the 2 other veto members of the Security Council fare, UK and China, I guess?
Yeah, I think because this is how democracy functions. I mean, they need the vote, so they will treat definitely American reporters better because they have vote. I mean, their audience have vote. We don't have. So for them, we are a part of. I mean, that for them is if they want to have some message delivered to a specific target audience, a Chinese audience or UK audience, they will look for us. But yeah, I don't feel that that's the wrong way. That's just how democracy functions.
You're
actually.
a second-class citizens and you're fine with it.
It's understandable.
You're both. What are you, like foreign or you're domestic? Because you have a lot of readers in
I don't
America.
think we don't fit necessarily into a neat category, and we like it that way. We think we're an international media brand at The Guardian. But I think Access is overrated. I think Access, as it's played by a lot of American media, is a recipe for very timid journalism. And the best access we ever got was when we broke the Edward Snowden story. You know, there was no shortage of people wanting to talk to us in the White House. And I think the point is that when you're setting the agenda yourself as a journalist, you don't have to go cap in hand to people. And I think that's what a lot of the very good foreign correspondents do better than some of the domestic correspondents is they don't play that game.
My problem is even getting interviews that we require that are important, and it's not a fact of going cap in hand. For example, we had been trying for quite a long time to get an interview with an Assistant Secretary of State, and the only way we got that interview, and it was 15 minutes, was because the reporter in Australia approached the US ambassador in Australia begging for that interview to happen, and the State Department relented here. That's the kind of stuff that I think didn't happen when I was here last, which was between the end of 2001 to 2005.
Are you saying that the Obama administration is less responsive?
Yes, I think they want more control. They don't let people talk as much as the Bush administration did. That's the sense that I get.
The issue is, to me, it's really Obama's principle or idea is, as people say it, Obama no drama. I mean, he's really trying to control. There's no drama at all. Until now, he hasn't done any on-camera interview with any Chinese media. He only do the written interview because the U.S.-China relation is just so complex. He doesn't want to mess up. It's understandable. This is just his personal character. I mean, that's just Obama, no drama.
But he's done one on-camera interview in totality in the last 3 months, as far as I can tell. I genuinely think this isn't a foreign domestic media issue. I think this is a White House communications issue.
But actually, he did 781 sit-downs.
He does a lot of. He does
the
a
last
lot
6
of.
years.
He does a lot of kind of short, very tightly controlled TV spots. Although not in the last couple of months when they've tried to keep him out of the limelight. But I think that genuine questioning of the president is extremely rare.
I mean, it does make sense in the sense that if they don't have something to tell you, they're not going to sit down with you. If they don't have a message to relay, well, it's just going to be ignored. And if they have something to say, it will have to be controlled. Is that the experience you had?
I think this is like one of the most important points that we can make here, and that is that there is no single truth, not in this world. And I've heard from the administration officials, not necessarily at the White House, but from senior administration officials in charge of the public diplomacy, for instance, saying, our facts are facts, your facts are fictions. If you approach this public diplomacy business from this side, there can be no dialogue and there can be no trust to anyone who takes that position.
This administration promised to be the most transparent and open. And when they have events and they only let their own photographer in and they don't tell people about it until after the event, that's not open.
Always, when we, for example, we ask questions about U.S., about China, Japan, those kind of questions, it's strikingly, I mean, when you go to, no matter it's White House, it's State Department, or it's Pentagon, they will give you the exactly same answer. And it's just not, it's even word by word.
And they read it.
They read it. They don't even read it, they memorize it.
You know, we're working with the assumption that this country and this city has more impact around the rest of the world than probably another country today or in recent memory or in history. And hence, while people around the world cannot vote in this country, they should at least have some access to the information that's affecting their lives overseas. No?
I wonder where our various countries are in the stratosphere. It makes a difference as to what kind of access we're getting. During the Bush years, Australia was a very important ally when it came to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We'd pick up the phone, it got answered, whether it was at the Pentagon or at the White House. And now, perhaps they don't need us as much, so we're not the important ones.
So I'll tell you how you get access here. I'll tell you how you attract attention here. And we all want to attract attention. You are absolutely right about that. We follow your example. Al Jazeera. I don't know what they felt about Al Jazeera, but they were watching it. And I know it because I visited the White House again since Clinton times. I know that at least since Bush times there was always a screen playing Al Jazeera. So others are following your example. Russia does, China does, and Russia and China and India are part of a group which is called BRICS, which is also attracting attention. So basically what I'm saying is very simple. You don't go begging. Americans Americans don't understand that. They don't go begging, and they don't understand people who go begging. They understand people who need to be paid attention to.
So, but do we agree that none of you get access to ask questions during those White House?
What, with the president?
With the president?
No.
I've been here for 18 years. There was one occasion at the G8 summit where President Bush asked me, offered me a question.
This is what we
And
call.
was it prearranged?
No.
This is what we call the exception that confirms the rule.
No,
So
there
you
have
should
been
doing
several
about it.
instances in the last 6 years where I have been here. He has asked, let foreign correspondent to ask questions. Even in the briefing room, means if you see the last 6 years, the frequencies which the press secretary lets the foreign correspondent ask questions has increased. If you see over there.
Yes, that's also true.
But if you take a larger picture, if you are only focusing on this administration in the White House in isolation, then yes, there are a lot of questions to be answered. But we see other foreign leaders, how do they give access to the foreign press? In which country of the world a foreign journalist sits around 50 meters away from the leaders, right? Can you name anyone?
I agree with Lalit with one caveat. Americans are good at it, I agree. But if we compare the others, then we need to also remember that the others don't advertise their being the model of openness and transparency and accessibility.
So you want to hold it to its own promise?
Yes, they should be.
Every
They should be
leaders
held.
and every country have their
Not
own way
to
of
the-
projecting things or marketing things. China does it, Russia does it, Indian leaders do this. Everyone, do you agree or don't agree? That's a different matter altogether. So
But
you
we're
I
in
think
the
that's a
capitalist
misreading
of
of the
free
promise.
world. Yeah, I mean they've made promises here that they have not lived up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a
They're
difference.
all
There's a promise. The press freedom is not about the press secretary or the president taking questions. Press freedom is about not locking people up. Press freedom is about not having injunctions, which is something that we have a problem with in the UK. And the US is a beacon for press freedom, and I think is something that ought to be recognised more generally. But that's a very different
But then-
question from access to the White
but
House.
then when
and
you
that's
say-
not that. That's what I fear is getting confused here.
But this is also the point. Why that might be of a concern to him domestically. But when it comes to international affairs, he's the commander in chief. Why isn't he coming out more on the record, speaking more about issues of
Well,
concern
because
to the rest of the world?
there's nothing in it for him, perhaps. They're going to do what... It's like we were trying to get an interview with Chuck Hagel for a few months, kept getting turned down all the time. And I'm not whinging about access, Dan. But, and then, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, suddenly we get a phone call from the Pentagon. Hey, do you want an interview with Chuck Hagel? Because it suited them at that time. They'll do what they want to do when it suits them, if it's in their interest.
But is it, I'm wondering, is it wise when you are so spread out there in the world with 1,000 military bases, with a war here, there and everywhere, with drone strikes and other forms of strikes, going back to Iraq and Syria, wanting to have allies, isn't it an opportune time to get more allies in Europe, get more allies in Asia, speak when hearts and minds?
Well, he's probably got advisors telling him to do that. They're probably arguing over the toss back in the, in the Situation Room. Not that we'd
but the
ever find
question
out
the
about it.
advisors would ask, president's advisors would ask, is giving an interview by you an ally? That's the question they will ask, right? And what we do means we also write for our audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't, for instance, if it's an Indian wire service, something happens in Africa, I'm not interested. If there's an Africa summit, I'm less interested. If something happens about a US-China summit, I'll be more interested.
The lesson of the last 10 years is even the largest military force in the world can't do things on its own. Why isn't Obama doing interviews in the Arab world? What's he going to say? I mean, it's a mess. That's the problem.
Could we at least all agree that he must give an interview to Euronews?
Of course.
And
By
Al Jazeera,
acclamation.
And could we get one as well?
With ABC, for
Yeah,
ABC
here
News.
we are.
Well, on that note, Dan,
On that happy.
Shinli, Stefan, Lisa, Lalit, and Andre. Thank you, really.
thank
so
you.
much.
We enjoyed
Thank
it.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.